It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated.
Our problem has been, as black people, we've always been concerned about white America, never about us. And what we've always thought is that white America equal the same interest as us. That is not true. We must now be concerned.
I can't be a pessimist because I'm alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive.
I might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
Tuned in to the End of the Bench Media that's bold, black, and beautiful. Thank you once again. This is your man Brian H. Rap B. Williams. Thank you for tapping into the End of the Bench Media. This is Build and Destroy, where I attempt to build up the community and destroy the lies and propaganda that surround our community. As I stated, I am Brian H. Rap B. Williams. As I do every week, I'll give homage to my parents, Dolores and John. Without them, there is no me. There is no me. There is no program, and we wouldn't be doing something else. Thank you for dedicating your time each week. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good day, whatever time it is. How are you doing? If you're watching on my website, www.theendofthebench.com, if you're watching on my website, please tap in, hit that like button, hit that share. If you're watching on YouTube, do the same. If you're watching on Fanbase, and if you don't know how to get the Fanbase, it's in the bio. Hit that link. The link, go into the bio. You can go straight to Fanbase, watch there. Either way, I get credit for the watch, but I need you to hit that like, hit that share, and tell a friend to tap in. Today, it's called Pick a Side, man. It is. It's time. You know, for the last, I want to say 18 months, I've been talking about this political situation. I've been talking about this political situation for about 18 months. It's not going anywhere. It is here to stay, and we're at the end of the race. The reason it's called Pick a Side is it's time. It's time for us to stop having a conversation about who we're going to vote for. Less than 30 days before the election, if you still are wondering, then you might not be the person. You may not be the person I'm attempting to talk to, because I do believe unless someone does something miraculous or insanely derogatory to the community, I think we know who we should and should not vote for, depending upon which side of the aisle you land on. I have no judgment for you, no matter what side you land on. But what I am going to do is this. I'm going to talk to you. I want to talk to you today about the day after the election. It's time for us to pick a side. We have been dealing with this whole situation, this United States versus the black community situation, for 400 or 500 years. We have been dealing with this European nation, the hierarchy of the European nations against people from who are descendants of Africans for about 500 years now. Since the 1500s, we're talking about 1,000 years, for almost 1,000 years. It's time for us to make up our mind on what we're going to do. You know, we continue to try to weave ourselves into the American process, and people continue. As I turn on my television every day, I can see, or go to the internet on a daily basis, I see people saying, hey, man, they're lazy, they're making excuses. What are they complaining about now? I do believe it's time for us to stop explaining to people why we are in the situation we're in, what's happening in the situation that we are in, and how we can get rid of the foolishness that's around us. It's time for us. It's time out for that. Because if you don't understand the plight at this point, with the internet and YouTube and books and encyclopedia and libraries and things of that nature, you don't either A, don't want to know, or B, don't care to know. There's no excuse for being ignorant about what's going on in my community, and it's time for us to stop. See, we follow the instruction of people who have dedicated their existence on hating us, not hating on us, actually hating us. Every time we come about and done what we need to do, somebody's come behind us and either created laws or they've actually destroyed the things that we've created. And now I want to talk to us about what we're going to do from today, literally from today until 2032. We need to not take a day off socially Or, you know what, we don't need to take a water break because we can never take a day off because we're in a situation to whereas people who are in control at the top, no matter where they live at and no matter what they look like, they are attempting to destroy us. We need to say that. You need to take a deep breath and say, hey, man, we're behind the wall and people are trying to get rid of us because that's what time it is. That's exactly what time it is. We fight against lies in history. We fight against lies socially. We fight against lies in the community, propagandized BS that's put into our children, women, brothers, aunts, uncles, whoever. The people who are around us, they even believe this propagandized BS, and then they buy into it, and then we self-discriminate, and this which is leading to self-destruction. What I want to do today is talk about how to create a foundation, a basis. We're gonna hit a baseline. We're gonna start at ground zero, and then we're gonna create a financial base, and then we're gonna create an academic base, and then we're gonna create a communal base, and then we'll expand this and from wherever you are. And it only takes a few people. It doesn't take 18, 20, 30, 40 million of the 60 million Black people that are sitting in this country. Look, we have a ton of allies. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tapping in. I got my man Mook and I got my girl T. I got my girl God damn. I'm lost in here. I'm lost up here. Now, I got Ray Kev in the building as well. Thank you. Too Cute. Damn, I couldn't think of her name. DJ Too Cute. Thank you. But like I was saying, we have a 1,000,005 obstacles in front of us. And these things could be eradicated in 10 years. Understand this. We went from 1863 to 1873. It was called Reconstruction. We went from 3% literary rate to 85% literacy rate. Nobody in the history of the world has accomplished that feat. So if you can go from ashy to classy in 10 years, that same 10 years be applied right now, 8 years from now, we could be out of this hole that this 400 or 500 year hole we've dug ourselves into. What we need to understand first and foremost that we have no friends. We may have some allies, and those allies will be around just like during the civil rights era, during the suffrage era, and any other era that's been when people were fighting for their rights. And then once they got what they wanted, they dissipated, they stepped away, they did whatever they had to do, and they went back to their cubby holes and they continue to build their communities. So it's time for us to do the same. You have people dealing in criminality. You have people dealing with politics. You have people dealing in a myriad of things. And then when they see that we're on the rise, they hitch their wagons to us. We're your friend until we get what we want. And then once you get what you want, you exit stage left and you leave us hanging. And hey, well, I helped you up. And then nobody's saying, well, you need to do your own thing because we're doing our thing. And you know what? So at this point, in 2024, and again, one of the greatest elections, the most historic elections, most paramount elections that ever been. And every 4 years we hear that. You know why we keep hearing that? Because we say, okay, Mr. Clinton, you know what? Let's go back 44 years. Okay, 48 years actually. Okay, Mr. Carter, help us out. And then okay, well, yeah, okay, didn't work. Okay, Mr. Clinton, help us out. Oh, okay. It didn't work. Oh, okay, Mr. Obama, help us out. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, Mr. Biden. Oh man, see, he ain't do nothing. And then here's the problem: we keep standing around waiting on the people who enslaved us, who incarcerated us, who put dope in our communities, who put guns in our communities, who defunded our schools, who brainwashed us into anti-unification programs and things of that nature, holding up one or two of us and saying, see, if they can do it, you can do it. Look, success of a people is not based on the few, it's based on the many. If Oprah and Obama and LeBron James and Michael Jordan, and Eddie Murphy, and anybody else who's come from the community rise up and they got their hands on their hips saying, I made it. You know, that's like basing your future on the people who gonna hit the lottery. I think the Powerball is tonight. Well, he hit the Powerball, so can I? No. You have to gauge your community on the accomplishments of the many. And if the many is struggling, that means your community is struggling. Point blank, period, end of story. So what I want to do first and foremost is hopefully mend this fracture of the community. I see my man Thomas in there. Too cute. My bad. I apologize. You always support me now. I couldn't even think of your name, but I got 10 million things on my mind. Please forgive. Tell your man. Tell my man what's good. I know King Roy listening too. Thank you. But this is what I want you to understand, y'all. Boss Lewis. Jesus Christ, I'm messing up everybody's name tonight. Boss Lewis, that's her husband. But this is what I want y'all to understand. We need to cement over the fracturing of the community. And that's not just, I'm gonna show y'all 2 videos this evening to destroy the propagandized news that we've received over the last 400 years. The first lie, and I'm gonna give you documentation of the first lie that's ever been told. Oh man, see, the reason y'all can't be mad at us because y'all sold each other into slavery as well. And then you get people like Candace Owen on TV. Well, slavery didn't start in America, so I don't know what y'all blaming white people for. You know what? See, those are the kinds of truths that are wrapped in a lie, and it's a half truth. It makes it a whole lie. Just like when you are engaging in infidelity, you can say, I was at one of my friend's house. Well, you stopped over your friend's house at 6 o'clock and then you went to that other person's house at 6:37. You did go to your friend's house, but that's not what you did all night. And that's what's saying things like slavery didn't start here in America. You're right. But chattel slavery is something different than any other slavery that was ever enacted in the history of the world. And then you can say, well, you sold each other. This is true again. But you also have to understand on the continent in which you marauded, raided, invaded, and colonized, you have distorted the truth in regards to that. Did people of African descent sell other people of African descent? Indeed, they did. Were there wars and things of that nature on the continent because you have a myriad of individuals and individual tribes? Yes, you did. But here's the difference. When you, just like, let's go to your homeland, the portion of Asia called Europe, because Europe is not a continent. Look it up. A continent is a landmass surrounded by water on all sides. Last time I checked, the back of Europe is called Asia. Look it up. Google it. You on the computer, you're doing something, and you can Google that right now. Back to the point. In Europe, you have the Scottish fighting the English, you had the German, you had the Germanic wars, you have what's called the Dark Ages, you have all these situations, the Romans, the Greeks, and everybody who had fights over there, and they took over at some point, some way, shape, form, or fashion, and they had slaves in regards to that as well. It's one of the more popular movies in the history of the world, called Gladiator. Last time I checked, Maximus Decimus Aurelius was a major general, and he was captured and put into slavery. So you are 100% correct. Here's the difference in what Maximus Decimus Aurelius went through and what the fictitious Kunta Kinte went through. Kunta Kinte lost his name, he lost his God, he lost his heritage, he lost his diet, and he was put amongst a bunch of people, much like Maximus, and had to lose his native tongue as well. And if he was to use his native tongue, he would be destroyed. That's the gigantic difference in chattel slavery in America and slavery throughout the rest of the world. You keep your identity. And then guess what? On the continent, if my tribe, the Ashanti, one of the greatest warring tribes in the history of the world, walked up into Ghana and had a confrontation with a artistic tribe, guess what happened? They submitted to the Ashantis, one of the greatest warriors in the history of the world, and they were the Kente tribe, and they wove a cloth, and that's what's called Kente cloth as of right now. And then it's the representation of Black people throughout the world. See what happened? They had an opportunity to keep their identity while being subjugated by the great warriors. This is what goes on. And when those people went into the continent to colonize, a lot of those people did run because they're not warriors. They were architectural geniuses. They were architectural geniuses. I'm going to say it again. They were agricultural geniuses. They were medical geniuses. They were philosophers. They were artists. They were warriors. They were a myriad of people just like the rest of the world. So some of those people fled to the outlying islands. That's why you have people from Cape Verde and other islands outside of Europe that black people from that period fled to and never went back to the continent. Yes, these are the situations that you're talking about. Some of those kings and queens did sell people who were not part of their tribes, because guess what? Just like people from Greek, look similar to people from Italy, but they're not the same. From our purview, they're all white, but they're not the same. Just like Irish people and people from England look the same, but they're not. That's how people from Nigeria, Niger, Botswana, Sierra Leone, so forth, and South Africa, and a myriad of other countries, of the 53 countries on that continent. That's how they got down. Another thing, they're outside of the colonized languages that were put upon them after war and penetration and destruction of their culture. Guess what? It's over 2,800 dialects over there. Not to even mention Kiswahili, a dialect that was created by the Arabics because they were trading, they were entering our continent and putting our people in slaves as of 2024. But we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about what's going on what went on the continent. So some people were sent over here assuming that the people, they were a second-class citizen in the tribe. They thought, hey, well, you know what I said? I'll put you your third-class citizen over here. I'll put you in your second-class citizenship. And guess what? They were put over here and they were beat into submission. You pull up in places like Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Bahamas, and the difference in being a Haitian, difference in being a Bahamian, difference being from Aruba, different from being Cuban. It's the point of a finger. You go here, you go up to the United States, you go over here, you go over there. That's the difference. But we have been sold a bill of goods because people like Candace Owens, if you are intelligent enough to read and understand, and others understand that slavery didn't start here, you would also understand that chattel slavery is a different situation altogether. Point blank, period, end of story. Point blank, period, end of story. And once we heal that gash, we can start to understand what's going on. See, we continue to try to weave ourselves into a situation that does not want it. I think it's called coalesced. We try to coalesce. And that just means to interweave yourself into a situation that you may or may not be welcome into. You might correlate into an African country and people be like, oh man, they don't like us over there. But it's amazing how we are afraid to coalesce in Africa, but we have been attempting to coalesce over here for 160 years to no avail. Guess what? If you go over there and learn the language and learn the traditions, how would they know you're not from there? Because you look a lot like them, because a lot of them are light, a lot of them are dark, a lot of them are brown, just like me. And they never know if you spoke the language. But guess what? We won't even do that. But we'll learn every other language on the face of the earth, and we'll think we're cool. Hey, I'm fluent in Russian, I'm fluent in Spanish, I'm fluent in French, I'm fluent in this, I'm fluent in that. And guess what? You have the capacity, just like the late great Dikembe Mutombo from the Congo, to learn 13 languages and speak them fluently. You have that same capacity, but we limit ourselves to English as if English is the standard. Let me look at this, what these people are saying. Oh, my man Thomas said, but people don't understand there are two different nations, black people and Shemites and Hamites, and exactly. But you know what? Let's not even divide ourselves by the nations like that. Thomas, I understand that's from a spiritual perspective, but I don't even want to divide us in that aspect. The reason I don't want to divide us in that aspect, because when you dilute something, you weaken it. If we start separating ourselves from each other, let's separate ourselves and get those things in accordance. Once we get ourselves in a better mental and spiritual space, period. Because once we can survive right here in America, living next door to Thomas, living next door to Care, living next door to Mook, living next door to Porty Sins, living next door to Boss Lewis, living next door to the people that we know, then we can have that conversation. But this conversation is a situation that is destroying us. Let's not separate each other anymore. We need to come together and live in the midst of our differences versus separating ourselves and identifying ourselves, because at this point, we have no choice but to do so. That's how they won the first time, because they would take people from the agricultural tribes, they take the people from the engineering tribes, they killed the people from the medical tribes, because the medical tribes they were healers spiritually, as you are, and mentally and physically. So they killed those people and they brought them over here, and then they re-separated them again, because if we got too comfortable, you may overthrow them. We outnumbered them maybe 3 or 4 million to a few 100,000. See, this is what we need to do, is come together and just basically read invent ourselves. Because if we continue to go down the path we are going on, we will destroy, we will continue to be going down this path of destruction. It will only lead to destruction of our grandchildren's grandchildren. Period. Now, let me see what my man Reggie Care said. There's a difference in slavery at home. There's a difference. There are different levels of slavery. And I need to put on my glasses in some rites of passages. What happened here in America is totally different. They were brutal. They were brutal to our and stole our ancestors and their identity and our history. Exactly. The slavery here in America is insane. And sorry, people, I don't have my glasses on because I look like a Riri with my glasses on. So I'm not gonna wear my glasses on air. I'm just gonna struggle read. Okay, we still haven't recovered from that. Partly because they are doing it to us today. And my sister 2Q said, true. Now, let me get back on this beaten path. Once we get this Euro frame of mind out, we systematically come together like 2Q, Rated Kev, Moot, Poetic Sense. Once we come on the same accord, then we can heal each other. We can get your knowledge in regards to the spiritual realm. We can get Rated Chaos knowledge in regards to Louisiana. Me and 2Q lives in Indiana now. I live in Illinois. Mook lives in Jersey. Poetic Sense lives in South Carolina. And we could come together and create our own culture. See, now that we know who we are and know what's holding us back, what we can do is this: recreate our own culture from a foundational situation. Because guess what? Culture means we do the same thing repeatedly. Culture is just what you do repeatedly. What we do repeatedly, we relax, we cool out, we have conversations, we respect each other. That's the culture of Black people. But the more and more we inculcate other people into our culture, we can do this as well. No, we need to stick to our culture because that's how other communities are being successful on this dirty rock called the United States. That's what time it is. It's time for us to recreate that culture. Understand that we were brought over here under horrific circumstances. We were captured. The people who were already here that looked like us, they were captured under horrific circumstances, murdered, brutalized, raped, and treated like trash. Now, only now we have a foundation. Now that we have a foundation, we move forward. And then we get rid of those half-truths like we don't love each other. Lie, lie, lie. Because if we love each other, guess what? I posted something today and I had over 1,200 engagements with that one post. Those people were people from my community. I have people interact with me on my Facebook page every day. I put some history on there. I put some spirituality on there every single day. And I get interaction. I get traction. So that's what we have. We eat the same kinds of food. Some of us may not eat meat anymore. Some of us may not eat pork anymore. Some of us may not eat beef anymore. Some of us may not eat fish anymore. But the sides are traditionally the same. Sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, corn, all kinds of wheat, barley, lettuce, and things of that nature. We know how to come together and make things so everybody can be comfortable. We sip on a little adult beverage. Some of us may not do that. I'm gonna use it as a generic. We drink Kool-Aid. We drink alcohol. We drink adult beverages and things of that nature. We enjoy the same vibe because that vibe coming out of that music is the same. It holds us together. We all, whether you love Jehovah Jireh, you love Jesus, you love Allah, or whichever deity that you pray to, we all love the creator of the universe. Let's just go with that, the Most High God. Let's go there. That way nobody's offended. How when you at work, that same dedication you give to your job, you might not like your supervisor, but you treat your supervisor with some modicum of respect. They may say something stupid to you, but you just go, you dummy. Or you just go, you tolerate it. Let's create that tolerance for each other. Because at that point, we've recreated, the culture is to respect the people who look like you. The culture is, for lack of a better term, penitentiary rules. Respect anything and everything around you, because at any time disrespect may cost you your existence. How about that? Now we got this foundation created. And then what's next after the foundation? That foundation, then we do this. We download this app. I need y'all to download this app. I'll be asking y'all. I rarely, the 5 calls ask for political purposes, but this app is for financial purposes. This app is called OBW, Official Black Wall Street. I need you to download that app, Official Black Wall Street. The reason you want to do that is this. That's the financial portion of our journey, because you created that spiritual and communal aspect. Because guess what? God is in you, God is in me. When you touch me, guess what? If you believe in Allah and I believe in Jesus and he believes in Jehovah and he believes in whoever, Buddha or what have you, guess what? We're all saying God. So guess what? We come together as a community and we worship the Most High God. I'm gonna respect the fact that you don't pray like I pray. I'm gonna respect the fact that you don't pray like I pray. But guess what? We all praying to the same entity, and that's our foundation. God, family, and guess what? Next up is vocation. God, family, then vocation. God is the basis of everything. Family is the community, where it's your friend, your cousin, your homie, your wife, your siblings, your other relatives. That's family. Vocation is next. Vocation is next. Now, once we get these vocations on point, that's why you're gonna download the Official Black Wall Street. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, it is. Official Black Wall Street. Thank you for your assistance. Thank you. I love it when y'all engage. It really makes this mission easy for me when y'all engage, because now I know I'm not just talking. Even though I do see it in the numbers, shout out to the people in the UK. For whatever reason, y'all shot up to 1.2% of the people, 2.8% of the people from South Africa, 2.4 went up to 2.4% of the population that watches my show. Y'all are in Canada. Salute to all of y'all, because guess what? It's these dudes in Manchester United. They've been engaged with me since I've been on Twitter. Big ups to you, brothers. Big ups to the brothers and sisters in South Africa. And big ups to the brothers and sisters in Canada. Back to the point. Now that we got the Creator, we got God, the Most High God covered, because he's gonna cover everything. Everything, no matter what you do and how you pray, you fall back, you leave it on God, you get out, you be all right. Now we got family. I don't like my cousin. I don't like my sister. Well, nobody asked you to. I'm asking you to love them. See, you can love somebody not like theirs, because they could be a creep. We got creeps all around us. And loving people don't mean you leave your wallet wide open on the table. Don't mean you leave your children around them. Loving somebody is, no matter what their shortcomings are, no matter what issues they have, you have a tolerance built into your psyche to help that person. And help them as much as you can. If they don't want the help, you walk away. You give salute. I did my best. That's all I'm asking. And then we don't throw them in the garbage, because sometimes people will. It's like when you read out the King James version of the Bible or the Holy Bible, or I have never read the Torah, but when we're referred to as the sheep, and the shepherd, you may have to play the role of a shepherd, because when the sheep goes astray, you bring the sheep. The shepherd brings the sheep back into the flock. Sometimes sheep go astray and they go way left, and you got to leave them out there, because we can call for you, but if you don't come back, we're gonna have to holler at you on down the road. But we got the foundation, we got the family. Now it's time to do the vocation. That's why I want you to download. Thank you, 2Q again. Official Black Wall Street is on the screen. Official Black Wall Street. There is a notification bell on that every time you're driving around in the United States of America. Not in Chicago, not in Texas, not in California, not in Virginia, not in South Carolina, not in Florida, in the United States of America. If you drive past a Black-owned entity, guess what happens? Ding! And it lets you know that there's a Black businesses. What we're going to do, this is what we have to do. If you want to get from under the tyranny of the European man in the United States of America, and the Black man who's been brainwashed by the European man, and the other cultures who've been brainwashed by the European man, who's fallen in line with colonization and worship that man and his rules, what I'm going to need you to do is this. And to start going the extra mile. Like, I can only speak from a perspective of Chicago. People who I know and love in Chicago, you live on the south side, you live on the west side, and I was raised on the north side of Chicago. My brothers and sisters on the north side of Chicago, salute to all of y'all. But When you live in these places, what we do is we drive 30 miles to the east to Michigan City, Indiana, and go to Michigan City and get discount clothes. We drive 30 miles, 35, 40 miles to the north to Gurney Mills. We drive 35, 40 miles to the west to the Aurora Strip Mall. We drive 17 miles to the north and go to the Rosemont. And we have no problem going to those places. We have absolutely no problem going to those places. And guess what? We won't go from the west side to the south side to the west side to shop with people. We must stop that. See, when you create a coalition, you don't have to label it. You don't have to be the Student Nonviolent Coalition Committee. You don't have to be the Southern Baptist Missionary Corps. You don't have to be the Black Panther Party Self-Defense. You don't have to be Muslim Mosques Incorporated. You don't have to be the Nation of Islam. What we can do is just like you know how to get to somebody in your community knows how to get to every party in the world. You know how to get in contact with everybody in the world. And we can start talking to our people about the Black grocery store on the south or the west side of Chicago or whatever size that you are, because we're all been redlined. This country has been redlined and put us in certain instances. So your side of town. And then what we can do as a group is we can go introduce ourselves to that Black grocery store owner and say, hey, if we start funneling people to your industry, to your business, and we increase your buying power, so you have to continue to buy in larger bulk, which means you buy it at a cheaper price, and we continue to funnel people to you. We need you to share with your employees first and foremost that profit. So if you're making 60 grand a month now, and we can push you up to $180,000, what we're gonna need you to do is take 20 of those styles, that other additional $90,000. It'll take you 20 of that and put it into your employees, another 20 and put it into the community, and then now you still doubling the money that you've made. You're down to 120 and you're killing it. And then we continue to funnel people to you. And we must get that mentality. Do that same thing with the dry cleaners, do that same thing with the grocery stores. And now we are self-sufficient as a community, because then guess what happens then? We have a cultural foundation, a spiritual foundation, a cultural foundation, and then we have a financial foundation. And then that's when we start talking to these politicians. We'll donate to your political fund, if you know what I mean. But we need A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. We know we only gonna get A, B, and C, but we're gonna ask all the way up to L or M. But we know we only need these things. It's an old saying: if you need a nickel, ask for 10 cents. And that's what we do. And once we do those things, we've created an entity that is self-sustaining and working throughout the United States of America. We're working throughout the United States of America because nobody knocked on your door and told you to get Facebook. Nobody knocked on your door and told you to get Instagram. Nobody knocked on your door and told you to get TikTok. Nobody knocked on your door and told you to get Twitter. I'm every week telling you to go to Fanbase, because Isaac Hayes III is owning Fanbase, and he's trying to sell it to you as well. We want you to be part owner in it as well. But these are the things that we need to do. That's how you have a spiritual base, a communal base, a financial base. And then actually the communal and financial could even be interwoven, because one doesn't work without the other. And then we could become a self-contained unit. And when you become a self-contained unit, that's why you go to the politicians then. Why do you go to the politicians? Oh man, the Democratic Party don't work for us and the Republican Party don't work for us. You're darn right. And we don't have to participate in any one of those parties. But when you have an organized plan to destroy each party and put them in the right positions, this is what you need to do. Oh, that's y'all having a personal conversation. My bad. Okay, this is what you need to do. You're only engaging in the political process to maintain a level of distance between you and the enemy. You use the United States Constitution to use against your enemies. And at that point, you can take over a community. Like for example, if you're from Chicago, it's two neighborhoods that are crime-ridden. It's Inglewood in Chicago and it's K-Town in Chicago. So just imagine if we, as the Black community in the city of Chicago, could open a few businesses in Inglewood, open a few businesses in K-Town, and we start talking to the politicians in Inglewood and K-Town, and we put our own people in there. Guess what we could also do? We can have them put the police who look like us, who are for us in our communities. Put those black cops who are not anti-black in those 2 black areas, and they can police by option. And that is a legal process. Selective law enforcement is within the city bylaws. That's why sometimes you can be speeding and the cop will see that you're a good person. They run your name, see you ain't really had too many moving violations, or just going with a warning. That's called selective enforcement. That's called selective enforcement. And when you do select it, when you only need people on your team or people who are allied to your team and have that selective enforcement. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And at that point, you have black fire departments, you have black police departments, you have black investigators, you have black people who work for the city, and you get those people in your areas. And then guess what? You ask those police officers who are in your district to move into that district, which is that's double coverage in the district, because who's going to break into the police's house? This is how you create an army against the intruders who are definitely coming. If you don't believe they're coming, look, Dr. Caretha Mitchell has a book in which she states, Dr. Caretha Mitchell has a book, and she's a professor at Ohio State University. She has a book that states, it is a clarion call to white nationalists. Anytime we come up, it is a bell rung. I went through it for you already. The Civil War, the United States Civil War happened. The United States Civil War happened. We emancipated ourselves. You notice I didn't say they freed us. We emancipated ourselves. And what happened? They created the Ku Klux Klan, and then laws were created. Laws like loitering. Thanks, T. Laws like loitering, which you're gonna remove me from a plantation, and then you're gonna give me 30 days to find a place to live. And then if I'm not a place to live and work in 30 days, you incarcerate me. And that's when that butt clause come in. Slavery is illegal unless nobody can be put into forced free servitude unless you violate the law. So we're gonna create laws so your breathing is a violation of the law. That's when loitering came in. Again, you got this 10-year period, Reconstruction. When Reconstruction goes into effect, our literacy rate goes up 83%. 83%. See, some people equate literacy with intelligence. Well, we could read and write in the countries that we lived in. We couldn't read and write in English. That's how we were able to create things like the cotton gin and thousands upon thousands. And you had people like Langston Hughes' grandfather, along with Frederick Douglass and other people who created the first Black Expo. Yes, Frederick Douglass taught himself how to read a language that he was not born into. Yes, this is what we are capable of. And then we have people in South Carolina and in Louisiana becoming senators and city councilmen and things of that nature. And then what did they do? They pulled those guns out on us and they put us in a bad situation. We stepped up and got out of that 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. Okay. And guess what? Redlining and Jim Crow segregation came about. Oh, God. Well, here we go again. And then guess what? We start building our communities again. We used the same blueprint they used. We turn the crime because you left us nothing else. Turn the crime because you left us nothing else. And we turn the crime, return that criminal activity unto an empire. And then we rebuilt the Black community. What did you do? The next thing you know, the civil rights movement comes in the late 50s because we were ordering for magazines like Allegheny. We had magazines like Ebony. We had magazines throughout the country that were building and showing us the Chicago Defender and other Black-owned publications that were telling our stories at all times and keeping us abreast of everything we know. We had an 83% home ownership, a 94% literacy rate, and all of a sudden, we started to integrate. And what did they do? You see Medgar Evers fighting against the destruction of our young brother, the late Emmett Till, and then they killed him. And then you had our brother Malcolm X, our ancestor Malcolm X, and then they killed him. And then you had Dr. King stand up and do some good work, and then they killed him. And then you had Fred Hampton step up, and they killed him. And there's a myriad of others. Those are the people on the upper crust. You had people like Paul Robeson, and who stepped out and said, I'm Black before I'm anything. And they took his passport because he earned his money abroad. Paul Robeson was so ingenious. He was such a academic genius that he became a professional football player while graduating from law school and became a Broadway performer, learning how to speak several languages throughout the world so he can go to those countries and not only use his beautiful voice to entertain them, but he used his beautiful voice in their language. Imagine being so intelligent, which you are, that you can learn Russian so you can sing a few songs and make you some money. Etsy Roberson, also an attorney. That's his wife. W.B. Du Bois and his wife. Carter G. Woodson, the dude who created Black History Month. These all the things that were happening. All these things were happening in the midst of insane tyranny. But we took it to the point where we took over the country and forced them to give us our right. I'm part of Generation X. Generation X is the first generation of the United States of America of Black people who were born with the entire protection of the United States Constitution. And guess what? 54 years later, my son, he don't have those same rights. My daughter does not have those same rights as me and my sisters had, my brother had, my cousins had, my lady had. All those things, my aunts, all the stuff we were born with, we no longer have those things. And that's why I started to show off like this. And the reason we go into politics is to protect ourselves. But what I'm going to do is continue to debunk some of those lies that you've been taught. You'll see this, and then I'm going to debunk one of the greatest lies ever told. This brother, who I'm finna show you, I'm about to show you, he says this is the greatest lie ever told. I'm going to show y'all the greatest lie ever told. This your man, A-Trap. I'll be back momentarily.
In a previous video, I talked about what I considered the top 10 lies told about Africa. The biggest being the disingenuous idea that Black people sold Black people into slavery. I frequently speak about this oversimplification, as we cannot apply 21st century Pan-African concepts to 17th or 18th century peoples. The overwhelming majority of African people back then identified in full with their own culture and linguistic group, and not skin color or even phenotype. So what's been implied by that statement is ahistorical at best. But this lie about African people is only a subgroup of an even bigger lie, one of the first lies ever told about our ancestors. What up, African World? It's Home Team here, and welcome back to another video of African history, culture, and worldview. By supporting this channel on Patreon, you're helping in the creation of these videos and supporting this content. If you'd like access to full courses and sources, or you simply want to show your support, you may do so by clicking the Patreon link in the description box below. Before we get into the greatest lie ever told about Africans, let's not forget some of the more well-known ones. The Dark Continent trope really became one of the most popular lies told about African people. The idea was that Africans were backward savages with no civilization, with the exception of Egypt, which they consistently place outside the sphere of African cultural achievement. Civilizations like ancient Ghana in West Africa weren't privy to much observation, despite it being known for its vast wealth and powerful military, which Muslim writers wrote about. Archaeological reports highlight ancient stone settlements that are believed to be a precursor to Sudanic civilization in the region, not to mention the art of the Yoruba people, who single-handedly forced the world to acknowledge African ingenuity and intelligence, as some try to assign the development of such works to ancient European travelers. There's just too much to ignore when it comes to African civilization. The Dark Continent trope doesn't have any ground to stand on when we consider ancient Meroitic civilization and the great Kushite rulers who started what some scholars call the African Renaissance, which was perhaps the first Renaissance in human history. And let's not forget the largest stone structures south of the Sahara. Great Zimbabwe is just one of many stone structures in the southern African region, revealing the glorious era of Shona civilization. Another lie that consistently makes its rounds in our Western consciousness is that Africans had no writing systems and that they relied on oral communication. Africans use diverse methods to communicate, oral transmission simply being one of them. One of the more popular writing forms in West Africa is called Nsibidi, believed to have originated amongst the Ikoi people of Nigeria. This writing form is largely viewed as ideographic or pictographic, conveying messages through symbols. It's interesting that many writing forms in Africa were originally invented for a specific class of people and not intended for public dissemination. For example, Egyptian hieroglyphs were originally only known amongst the priesthood. This is also true for the secret writing form of the Songhai people, who use ideograms to communicate amongst a secret society or religious group. Interestingly enough, this writing form was only revealed to the public in 2010 by a Songhai scholar named Hassimi Maiga. When dealing with African scripts, we can point to the Meroitic script of the Kushites, which to this day has not been fully deciphered. And that's really disappointing, as it would have been incredible to decipher Queen Amanirenas' stela concerning her triumphant interaction with the Romans, in which her primary objectives were met in a treaty. Even Southern Africa has some hidden gems when it comes to writing forms. João de Barros, a distinguished Portuguese analyst of the mid-16th century, upon his visit to Zimbabwe, wrote a very important description concerning the discovery of a writing form in one of the vassal kingdoms of the Mwene-Mutapa Empire, called Batua. De Barros writes, "Over the gate of the building is an inscription, which neither the Moorish traders who were there, nor others learned in inscriptions could read, nor does anyone know in what character it is written." We really don't know what Joe de Barros saw, but from his perspective, it seems clear that he viewed what he saw as a sort of writing form which was indigenous to the region. Not even the Swahili traders that accompanied him could decipher it. Unfortunately, we really never hear about this again. Anyway, all this babbling I'm doing is for a reason. The lies told about Africa are many, and I really want us to understand the full scope of it and how grossly inaccurate they are. What may have started out as innocent quickly turned into an agenda that we have yet to undo. But by far, the greatest lie told about Africa has nothing to do with civilization, writing, or any of that. The greatest lie told about Africa actually came from a religious idea. And as we all know, religion has been one of the most powerful forces in human history. It's no wonder that this particular lie affected African people so greatly. It's nearly impossible to ignore the Abrahamic religions when speaking about Afro-descended people, because these religions are a big part of our history, whether we like to admit it or not. They greatly influenced our spiritual paradigms and worldviews. This lie, originating amongst the Abrahamic religions, as many of us know, is called the curse of Ham. I don't want to distract with theological history or debate, but in short, the curse of Ham is a misnomer because the curse was really bestowed upon Canaan. Jewish scholars believe that Ham was the ancestor of all Black or African people, and this idea was adopted by Arabs, and then it was strategically broadened by Europeans to justify the enslavement and demonization of African people. This is the greatest lie that has been told to our people, because it didn't just have physical and psychological repercussions, it also added a spiritual component, because some people within our community actually believe that it's true. And in our attempts at lifting this curse through achievement, acceptance, or spirituality, we turned into concerned, aimless wanderers, heightening confusion and self-hate within our community. It's one of the most powerful invisible enemies we have as Afro-descended people, one that cannot be tangibly debunked. And although the belief in it has diminished greatly, the residuals may still be felt, because no matter our spiritual beliefs today, many of us were raised with this dark paradigm, and so I think it's important for us to speak on it, especially so that we won't pass this baggage on to the next generation. Anyway, guys, I'm all out. Do you think this is the greatest lie that's ever been told about African people? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like these videos and want to help in its continued production, consider supporting the home team on patreon.com. The link is in the description box below. Know thyself. Remember your ancestors. Peace.
As you see, if you're looking at these things, you'll see that like this gentleman, he believes that the greatest lie ever told is the fact that we are cursed to be Black, and that's one of the greatest lies ever told. Because if you believe you were cursed to be Black, that means you're further away from God than you actually are. If you're further away from God than you actually are, that means you're closer to the negativity, which why I believe he says this is the greatest lie ever told, because we are, in regards to the divine rights, we are the closest to God because we were first. First means closest. point blank period. If you believe that you were made in God's image, that means you look like God, and I'm not going to go through all this nonsense. But what we're going to do is this. We're going to take that information and realize that we come from the richest soil, the most mineral rich soil, the most agriculturally rich soil, oil, diamonds, and things of that nature. It all comes from there. We have the richest skin. We age slowly. Everything about us is God-like. It's right in the image of God, because we have taken it upon ourselves to try to be further away from that original image. This is why we have been led astray. And this is what my brother Thomas was talking about earlier. But while we're talking about these things, I'm gonna just take it back. Since you see that it's nothing wrong with being black and everything right with being black. And if anybody's upset with that, like I had some trolls today on a couple of my posts, and they thought they were going to say something negative to me. All I did was liked it. But guess what? Keep putting it in there, because when you type in it and I'm not online, guess what? You push me further out into the algorithm. At that point, I was only at 600 views. Guess what? I'm up to 1,300. I'll give you an accurate number right now on that one post. I've had 1,300 engagements. Thank you for those 700 people, because when you typed it in there trying to be negative, you pushed me out there so my people can grab hold to it again. But again, this is what we're fighting against. We're not fighting against them. We're fighting against us. And what I mean by fighting against us is this: fighting to maintain a level of divinity and communal. Like I said, we fight for the spirituality aspect. Then we're going to do the communal aspect. And then we're going to do the financial aspect. And then we're going to use God's ability, everything that God put in us, to fight to maintain our community, and everything in that community to fight to maintain that community, both physically and spiritually, and then financially. Then we're going to use those financials to use the laws to keep these people above us. And when you use the laws to keep the people above you, now you're safe. You're self-contained and you're safe and you're protected by God and you love your people. That's the ultimate goal. It is like a number 8. It's infinity. It is love, infinity, prosperity, infinity, and solitude, infinity. Now, people can come just like they treat us. You can come over here and spend your money, but you can't come over here to stay. You can come over here to spend your money. I'm going to say it real slow. You can spend your money with me, but you can't be here forever. You can even live over here, but that does not make you a part of this. I'm sorry. We will treat you with the utmost respect because God created you too. But due to our past, we cannot allow everybody to come in. We have allies, but we have no friends at this point. And until you show us for 200 or 300 years that you're our friend, we'll continue to keep you at an arm's distance. There's some people that coming in and leaving in there because they're offended by what I'm saying and they don't think this is important. But it is. It is truly important. And the reason it's important is because at this point, unlike every time our community in the past, we never took arms. We need to all go get a FOID card, a FOID card. And if your state doesn't require one, that's awesome. And then you go to the gun range and you practice. I'm not comfortable with guns. Well, you need to get comfortable, because I keep telling you, you see, I've laid it out. Number, this is the third time I'm going to do it on this episode. Every single solitary time, we rise up and do what we need to do to maintain our happiness, maintain our peace, maintain our financial position in this world. White nationalists show up and try to destroy it. This time we'll be prepared. We don't have to walk around like the Black Panther Party, self-defense with firearms outside. We just know. See, it's easier to understand that people in our community, if you walk through a neighborhood and you knew everybody in this neighborhood was armed and prepared to defend themselves, you are less likely to bother people in that community. That's what we need to be. We need to be there. But back to the political aspect of it. Before we get there, as we get there, after we get there, then we attack this political machine. Why? We'll be okay. We got money, but because you need to make the United States Constitution protect you, you must learn the laws of the land. And when you learn those laws of the land, you'll put yourself in an advantageous situation. So if someone comes and attacks you, you end that person's life. You go home. Again, you go home. Because at that point, we have, like I showed y'all last week, Thomas. And then you have Said Trotter, what's up, man? So good to see you, Said. And you have Rated Kev, you have 2Q and other people, and we're all in one vast community taking care of each other. So when you walk into Cedric Trotter's house and he shoots you, guess what? Thomas is gonna throw some money in on getting you defended. 2Q gonna get you defended. I'm gonna help Cedric get defended. Cedric gonna have the best possible attorney that's in our community because now he's invested in our community, and then the laws are in his favor, and he comes home to his family and he doesn't miss a beat. That's the way you maintain. But the number one reason we need to maintain is because I don't know if y'all know this. The murderers of our young brother Tyrese Nichols in Memphis, Tennessee last year, early this year, they have been convicted. All 5 of those men, all 5 of those monsters. This is why I said some sheep go astray. We just have to let them go astray. Those men in the police uniforms that look like us, they were magically melanated as well. They have been convicted by the police. This is why when you got people saying, hey man, why can't we deal with Donald Trump? See, Kamala Harris slept with Mayor Brown. Well, Mayor Brown, let me see, she slept with Mayor Brown in the early 90s, but it has been documented that he was separated from his wife in 1981. While y'all out here doing coochie Carfax reports on women, do the coochie Carfax on him too. But see, we don't want to do that. We will vote for a dude who got 4 baby mamas, cheated on his last baby mama with a hooker. But we gonna get mad at her for dating a man who is separated, legally separated. But why are we in this woman's business anyway? But back to the point. This is the same man who wants to get those same race chasers qualified immunity, meaning they beat that young brother to death and they go home. Guess what? There is no justice. You notice I said he got justice. No, because justice is the reward or the penalty of your actions. The reward or the penalty for your actions. His mother isn't getting justice because her son is not coming home. Her son will never be in her house again. And if we foundationally, we got the spirit realm. Then we got the communal realm and the family. And then we got the financial and the governmental realm. Guess what? Now we got businesses that when your child is that sheep that go astray, you bring them back and you say, yo, Rap, I need you to let him be an intern on your show. He got a lot to talk about. He come in and now he's doing a show on Built for This Network. I mean, on the End of the Bench Media. Oops. The End of the Bench Media. And then at that point, we continue to rise up. Salute to my brother Ben, BS3. Hit that follow button for my brother, y'all. Do that, please. Another brother, see, another instance in which we continue to one hand wash the other, both hands wash the face. And that's what we continue to do. See, what we don't realize is the power that we have. I talked about the spiritual power we have because we're directly connected to the Most High God. I talked about the power that we have because we brothers and sisters, we come from the continent of Africa naturally. But let's talk about the financial power. The money that the Black community spends in the United States of America is more than some countries on earth. Imagine if we start finding Black farmers, and like my brother Ray DeCare, he's a truck driver. Imagine if we found a means for Ray DeCare and other people who try these trucks. I think my brother Truck D and a couple other brothers that's in the podcast community. Just imagine if we get them running to all these places to and fro, delivering food throughout the country, paying them a king's ransom to make sure we eat. How about that? And then at that point, we're overstocking our grocery stores with our food. And we're maintaining this. And then we're buying gas stations and we're buying our own gas. And then we're buying our own food. See, at that point, we become self-contained and all-powerful. We look no way. We look to no one. And then at that point, when it's time to get rid of that qualified immunity, bam, we ain't dealing with that because we got the politicians in play. We got the financials in play. And then that money is circulating through our community, much like the Chinatowns and most of our towns. You know what? My brother Joe, Just Joe, salute to Just Joe because he watching too. My brother Just Joe said, you know what's funny, Rap? I never seen a Chinese food restaurant. He told me that last night. He hit me up around 11:30. He said, never seen a Chinese food restaurant. You know why? Because Chinese people understand you go to Chinatown to get your food. So imagine if we went to Inglewood. So imagine if we went to K-Town. Imagine if we went to the hundreds because they ain't wild. What if we went to the hundreds and got our food? Only. What if we went into my brother Thomas's grocery store and say, Thomas, man, I was kind of funny, bro. I got suspended last week. And then he fronts you a little food. And then when you get paid, you hit him back. See, that becomes a communal situation. I mean, you can't trust nobody. I ain't asked you to do that to everybody. But if somebody comes in your store on a regular basis, they show themselves to be an upstanding citizen, and they're bringing people, more customers to you, and they're telling people about you, guess what happens? That little 80, 85, 90, $100 that you gave him is going to come back to him at $8,500. See, this is where we have to get that back. So now we have the spiritual aspect. We're talking to God first. Then we have the communal aspect. We love it on each other, no matter what our flaws. I mean, you're a former criminal. That the operative word is former. You're a former drug abuser, or drugs abused you. Yes, you're a former whatever. You're a former. If somebody say they stop, they stop. Don't look at them and what they did. What they did was yesterday. If you don't want to bring up all your dirty laundry and bring to the front of the conversation, don't bring up anybody else's past and discretions. If you're God, then let me know, because then you can fix all this. If not, you need to do what. Don't be telling me about you love God and you believe in God and then you judging other folks, because then guess what? According to the word of God, that just puts you right at the front of the line for hell. As soon as you start judging, judge not, yet ye be judged. And if you want to judge me harshly, you will be judged the same. But this is how we fix this community. And then we understand the lies and the propaganda and BS that's been fed to us. For example, you wonder why our brothers and sisters are drug addicts. This man right here, look at that name on look at that name right there on the screen, John L. Richmond. He is a top aide for a former president in 1970, between 70 and 70, 68 and 72, Richard Milhouse Nixon. He openly said this on a program called 2020 that came on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. He openly said this he was non-apologetic about saying it. Well, we couldn't make it illegal to be anti-war, so what we did is put the marijuana on the hippies and we put the heroin on the blacks. And guess what else happened? Y'all think this Project 2025, oh man, oh my God, the Heritage Foundation. No, guess what? The Heritage Foundation got 60% of their plan put in play in the 1980s. Guess what we called it then? Reaganomics. That's when you put heroin in the community, and then you get this white kryptonite put in our community, and then magically, me and my boy D Gray, he lives in South Central Los Angeles. And he heard stories about a big truck of guns being left in the hood. I've heard that. I got homies in the South that heard that. I got homies in the Northeast that heard the same. We all got the same story. Cocaine used to be known as the rich man's drug, and all of a sudden it was insanely cheap. You put all these movies out here glorifying violence. Oh man, these kids are crazy. These kids are not crazy. They've been exposed to crazy and tomfoolery. That's what it is. They've been exposed to nothing but tomfoolery and chicanery. But if you pour the goodness of, again, the spiritual portion of them, you pour that into, oh man, I don't really believe in that, man. And then you start to, guess what? Hey, if you were born in 1965, if you were born in 1960, we're just going to start the 60s. If you were born in 1960 up until like 1980, you big mama in them now. So if Thanksgiving ain't where it used to be, that's your fault. If the kids going crazy, that's your fault. If these girls ain't no good, that's your fault. If these dudes ain't no good, that's your fault. Because guess what? You will let these people put that white kryptonite in our communities. You didn't pay attention to the political process, so they defunded our schools. The Democrats ain't done nothing because you ain't been to a city council meeting in your life that you allowed them to put monies anywhere but in your schools. You sold your properties because you saw a big pile of money, and now the tax rolls are down and your schools are underfunded. You allowed them to take vocations out your school and taught you into going to college so you could owe them $100,000. That's what you did. That's what you did. I am part of you. So I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to us. I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to us. we allowed them to brainwash us into their game plan. Now we can get in the shower and wash that foolishness off. Let me see. I think it's a couple of people said something. I think I saw Thomas say something. Thomas came back in. Thomas came back in and said, just like those sundown towns, exactly. You come spend your money here, but you got to get out. Exactly, T. Exactly, bro. Just like the sundown said, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Hey, man, y'all got to work with me. I ain't got my glasses. I'm not doing my glasses either, so y'all don't forget that. I ain't finna be sitting up here looking like Mr. McCool for y'all. I wear them when I'm out in the street, but I ain't finna do it. The light be blunt. Preach, my brother. Okay, thank you, Reddy Kev. And just like I was just saying, this is a perfect example. This brother right here, this brother has been my friend for 40 years. This brother right here. This brother right here. I owe him for the rest of my life. I'm gonna deviate from the show for 5 seconds. Well, about a minute and a half. I'm gonna deviate from the show. I'm gonna show you why I love this brother right here. This brother is unassuming. He's an extremely humble brother. One of the best people in the history of the world to me. I met him 40 years ago. This is right now in the month of October. I would have been honoring him 40 years, 1 month. 34 years, 38 years ago, we had a class together, and his teacher. Now, everybody knew me. I was king of cutting class. I could cut class with the best. I was a world-class class cutter. But this one class, me and him shared together. It was a welding class. And that was the one class I didn't cut. I was setting up the acetylene, which is gas. I was setting up the electric welds. I was the teacher's pet in this class because I was enthralled into this class. This brother Cedric Trotter. I should say your first name, but I ain't gonna bust you out. But this brother Cedric Trotter, my uncle, who was like a father figure to me, my Uncle Richard Potter, salute. He came to the school because teachers started complaining because I was getting good enough grades. They would imagine I was cutting class and they couldn't figure out what I was doing. So they complained to my mother. My mother sent her brother up to the school because my father, God rest his soul, died 4 months before I was born. So he said, you know what, you're cutting all these classes. What's your first class? And it was just happened to be this welding class because that class lasted 4 periods. And my uncle came in and he said, I said, we going to welding? I never cut that class. Jack, why don't you go to gym too? That's what I'm thinking. I walked in this class, so I'm like, I never missed this class. I'm the teacher's pet. This teacher stood up and lied on me. The teacher lied on me and said I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing. This brother right here. Now, see, back in the 80s, it was a different parenting process. You did not speak back to grown-ups. My uncle left, threatened to bust my head. I'm jacking you up. To this day, me and him joke about it. But Cedric Trotter threw all caution to the wind because he knew if he got in trouble, if he stuck up for me, he would get in trouble with his parents. That brother stood up for me in that class and called that teacher out and cussed him out. That's why that's my brother, because when I was at my lowest as a young person, he stood up right next to me because we had 2 years and we had been kicking it and laughing and joking for 2 years. And Cedric said, you know what? I'm not going to let you go down. Now, it ended up costing him because me, Cedric, Alex, and Larry, we and Terrence, we ended up failing that class. And we hung out every day. We never went back in that class. We complained to everybody we could, and they rejected all our complaints. But that galvanized the brotherhood up until a couple years ago. I was in an accident, and I almost broke my back. And just so happened, that brother Cedric tried to call me and say, are you okay? I said, man, I'm all right, but I got to get these pain meds. My man came to my crib, which was 20 miles away from his crib with his daughter, took me to get my medication. So, like, if y'all who don't believe that this communal thing can work, Cedric Trotter is living proof of that thing working. As you see, he's still supporting me to this day. 40 years of brotherhood. He is not my friend. Like I told people, I don't have friends. I have brothers, or I just know you. And that's it. Back to the point. Or why could we just vote for a person we can't vote for himself? The last time I checked, a felon can't vote. Exactly. He can't vote for himself. Thank you, Cedric Trotter, for being part of that. But that's how I know this thing can work, because people like Cedric Trotter. But back to what I was saying. When we put that spiritual thing in order, then that familiar thing in order, then that financial thing in order. We get our politician there, and now we set up laws, and Cedric Trotter just happens to work for the sheriff department. Cedric Trotter just happens to work for. So what if Cedric was the precinct captain or the captain or the lieutenant in our district, and he had a bunch of people like this, one of my brothers in my organization. I'm for y'all don't make a difference. I'm part of an organization. He's worked for the sheriff also. We have them in our communities. So now when the lights come on behind us, we're not tense. The anxiety doesn't run through our body because we know the people who are pulling us over is because we've actually done something wrong. And if we've done something wrong, we communicate with that person as a human being, not as an antagonized race soldier. See, we get rid of that qualified immunity because then we don't need it. We're protecting ourselves. We're financing ourselves. We loving on our God. We're loving on our people. We're financing our community. We're policing ourselves. We're governing ourselves, and we don't have any problems. With that being said, that, my brothers and sisters, ladies, gentlemen, haters, and in the background, you bitter friends. That's how we fix this. This process starts the day after Election Day 2024. We can take a water break the day after Election Day 2032. That's the first time we can go, whew. But that'll be a Wednesday morning. We back on it Friday or Thursday. We will not take days off because we will be under duress for the remainder of the time that we're here. I want to show y'all this video, but I also want to thank you guys for paying attention, because without you, I'm just a dude talking to himself. With that being said, man, thank y'all. I want to show y'all this. Remember, I told y'all I was going to show y'all the greatest lie ever told to the Black community. You will see that. Un momento, por favor. This is your man, H-Rap, 2 fingers, 1 word. Check this out. Do not go anywhere. Do not go anywhere. Stay here. Don't be square.
Most historians prefer to ignore Abraham Lincoln's views on slavery and race. By today's standards, he was an uncompromising white supremacist. In 1989, to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, President George Bush invited several black leaders to the White House. In his remarks on that occasion, the president said he looked forward to the day when Abraham Lincoln's vision would be fully realized and a black man would sit in the Oval Office. With all due respect for President Bush, I can say with complete confidence that Lincoln never envisaged a black president. He made it clear on many occasions that he abhorred the very thought of social or political equality for blacks. He saw no future in America for free blacks, believing that the races should be separated. Until the very end of his life, he did everything within his power to remove blacks from the United States. The Abraham Lincoln of history is vastly different from the great emancipator whose racial views have been increasingly shrouded in myth. Although he did not own slaves, Lincoln showed no marked antipathy for those who did. In his legal practice, before entering politics, he represented slaveholders in cases involving runaway slaves. During his career as a congressman, he mustered party support for the slaveholder Zachary Taylor's 1842 bid for the presidency. His wife, Mary Todd, was the daughter of one of Kentucky's most prominent slaveholders. After he switched to the newly formed Republican Party and received its nomination for the presidency, Lincoln outlined his views on slavery in a now famous speech.
The love that we have for one another is the greatest threat to the people who rule over us. And it is necessary for those people who rule over us and who rule over African people the world over, if those people are to stay in power, they must destroy our ability to love each other in a healthy sort of way.